Move it closer. Move it closer. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of strange happenings. Wouldn't you say? Say the least. Seems like we are moving into the thick of insanity. Every direction you look. So, we're going to need every bit of stability we can find in this. So, they've found Charlie Kirk's killer, if you haven't heard. Or that's what they think. That's what we're being told. Seems like this is gonna play out like a lot of other things we've all lived through. But a lot of you haven't. New to these sorts of contrived events. Not that they're fake. They're definitely real. It's all very, as they say, visceral. The word of the year. You have people's view that, and I don't know, I don't have any view. I just see all the different paradigms, all the different points of view, and I try to collate them in a way that I can digest what's happening. And yeah, this is just us hanging out, watching it. I have a video lined up. Might get in trouble for playing part of it, but I think it has some interesting coincidences regarding, Charlie's alliances, because a lot of people have a negative view on his stance on a certain country, and that was very specific for most people's dislike for him. The other thing was the well, the what word am I allowed to use for that? The thing we're not really trying to get into today. But I'll have a video for that soon enough to get me in trouble with. Because I'm sure most people probably would disagree with me. But to start out, I wanted to read something I found today. Someone who I follow, a spirit lady. I will refer to her as. But I felt like she made some really good points. Talking about the witch trials of Salem. I'll just read it. The witch trials of Salem presents itself to me as a parable and blueprint for modern mass hysteria. Fueled by the powerless, a situation where the weakest of society gang up together and get crazy in front of a court or audience and spill out their specters, their victimization to the world, hoping to gain something from it. Status. Little innocent girls between the ages of 9 and 17 accused over 150 people who were incarcerated and 25 people executed. The deepest evil parading as the most innocent and victimized of the community. The unpopular, unattractive, unwealthy, undesirable, uneducated at the bottom of the hierarchy. They saw no hope of ever climbing the social ladder. They took matters into their own hands. Does that sound familiar? They secretly turned to divination, illegal in Puritan communities, with the servant girl in the house. The servant was another underprivileged individual from a different culture, in a time where women had no rights and had to rely fully on how well they could marry. Being at the bottom of, or less desirable of, bachelorettes in the community, they had to rely on manipulation and deceit to obtain the power that they sought. They were called with the servant girl. They were caught. They were caught with the servant girl and immediately turned on her and blamed the devil for overcoming them. They resorted to blame, accusation, deflection, and redirection. They spazzed out in front of everyone, pretending to be possessed in a pact to convince everyone that they were something that they were not. Innocent people died, just like they are now. They didn't burn or hang witches. They burned innocent women, and even some men too. The women that were targeted were the women that these girls were jealous of. The beautiful ones, the smart ones, the wealthy ones. Anyone that seemed to have some kind of privilege above them were their targets. You see, if the only way they could climb the hierarchy was to eliminate the competition, this was their aim. An entire community was almost destroyed by a handful of teens and preteens playing a game with everyone's mind. Had everyone convinced to believe them because they played their little innocent, underprivileged victim girl card so well. In the end, there was only one thing that finally put a stop to it, and it was the divine masculine. And this is why it's so important. This is where we need bold masculine voices of logic and reason to override the emotional, reactive displays of irrational insanity. Men who lead with boldness and courage. It took one righteous man who was pious and genuine and authentic and unafraid to speak the truth. Facts, evidence, articulated logic. He had light and intelligence in him. Disciplined as an attorney, worked through the system the best he could to take out the villains who were parading as victims. One righteous man who used wise words and spoke with conviction. He confounded the evil spirits in the girls, and they knew their gig was up. Their illusion ended, and the prisoners were released, but incredibly traumatized. Although there was already a lot of damage done, the reparations were never fully realized. Generations would be affected by this display of lies and manipulation that really was a war between rational, critical thinking and emotional displays of mental illness and powerlessness, grasping for power that it's unworthy to handle. What's really sad is that there were parasites in their community that benefited from the slaughter. They gained by taking over the land and possessions of the people who were executed. So there were people who got greedy by the gains of the community and joined in on the hysteria, mob mentality. The word Satan means accuser, and he is a lawyer after all. Those who often accuse are projecting and are often the guilty party. When someone is accusing you and you know you are the innocent, you can bet you are being confronted with an evil spirit speaking through a weaker vessel. So it's important to speak the truth when you are challenged by someone caught up in a delusional lie because they want attention so bad they're willing to let someone else die for it. Will justify anything. Eventually, speaking the truth aloud will disrupt the illusion, and they know this. That's why we can't have honest discourse, because we're past that. According to a lot of people, right? Not me. This is just what I hear, right? I know you've heard it, if you're listening. There's lawyers of parable and history which repeats itself. Instead of Salem witch trials, it's all on social media now. Instead of specters, it's victims. The victims always envy the people they attack in some way. They always have some kind of sense of entitlement. It's a spiritual war. What kind of spirits are in you? What kind of spirit is in you? Or spirits, as in the case of they, them. For we are many, right? If you don't love yourself, you won't be able to love others. The kingdom is within. Do the work. You only get to be the victim once. After that, you're the volunteer and are a willing participant in good or evil. So that choice is up to you. And just like those witches in Salem learned, the rush of illusory power is fleeting and momentary. The illusion always crumbles to truth. The rest of their lives, these evil witches were miserable and fruitless because they robbed so many others of their joy. Don't be like them. Yeah, I know there's a lot to dissect here, isn't there? Probably some perspectives you've never heard, I didn't hear before I read that. But that does seem to be the case here. I think in a lot of ways we're all just used as pawns. We've been self-diluted. That is the modern religion, though. Scientific illuminism brought about this sectarian humanism. And that makes, well, you the new God, right? Man, man being placed as God in the temple, right? Well, that's what these people say. That's what they think. I don't know any of it. I don't know what to believe, but I know what they portend, what they say, and that is it. That man is God in the temple. And so they've turned the mysteries upside down. They take components that are supposed to be spiritual components, like yes, spiritual component is largely a feminine component, and they falsely overlay that over the physical. That's not to say anything about individuals. You know, there have been different kinds of people forever. This isn't the same thing. No. This is the continuation of the battle between French and English masonry, if you will, or the Western and Oriental schools, or mystery schools, if you will, and all of their branches vying for power. So yeah, there's no real dog in the fight. But justifying political violence is insane. It will spread like wildfire. It already is. I mean, if they find the person, they get put on TV. Just that's how the phenomena it gets memed into creation. Just like Kip Kinkle did with the schools. Another instance. Of loose medication. But in regard to Charlie, the part that I can play here that will get me in trouble, probably, because I found it pretty interesting. You see people's arguments online uh, as to I didn't always agree with Charlie Kirk. I didn't probably most of the time. I probably didn't. Um, I didn't really watch a lot of him. Um, I know he was important to a lot of people. I have people close to me in my life who are very hurt by the situation, and very affected. I see how it's affecting, how it affects us politically. This political violence and the fact that these people are, you know, now motivated, now because out of fear, and this is just a bad direction to go. So I hope people have more sense than to just read into how people look and to treat them poorly when I thought we knew better than this. But it doesn't seem so. I've always tried to find out why, and it it does seem like yes, there's this force really trying to destabilize things here to um, sow unrest, distrust in the institutions. That yeah, I know they're not great. Maybe they weren't made to be great. Yeah. But here's some interesting stuff on Charlie, because as I was saying, these people in their arguments, they often misquote, and like when it comes to Charlie and empathy, like they don't like he yeah, he said empathy was a newer contrived term or something like that. But if you look at the rest of the quote, it's not as heartless as um, these cold liberals seem to be putting it, you know. And the fact is that we've been overtermed, we've been over. Um, we've been made into characters, and the words don't mean what they used to mean, and that's part of the problem. Nobody can communicate. Nobody wants to communicate or get past um, a sentence. They're very quick to find a flaw and a reason why they need to waste their energy um, spinning up more of this. You know, so there's that sort of misinformation as far as people talking about what he said and this and that. His alliances with certain states in the Middle East, and well, I'll go ahead and play this, and I think it'll work out. Not just on import. Okay, here we go. On September 9th, Charlie Kirk conducted his final interview featuring Ben Shapiro as a guest. 10 minutes into the discussion, Kirk openly and objectively asked a question concerning his position on Israel. Some good stuff. The media on COVID, on lockdown, on Ukraine, on the border. So maybe we should also ask the question: is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question. That maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So then some people would accuse. Okay, so again, this is not Benny Johnson saying. This is not Governor. This guy saying. He could very, very easily be infrastructure that he has. There's a difference between being a star and having a machine behind you. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. Israel wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing? All right, now this, shout out to whoever did this, assuming rapper Naughty actually did this. Oh yeah, this is Charlie Kirk's side of that. Super pro. Super pro Zaya, right? Together from a recent interview. There's that sarcasm. Where, if for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government about backlash than actual Israelis do. It's almost so unfair. They were coming after you at the turning point for, among other things, you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You're both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like we're just going to try to we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. It's no, like some rule you can't go there when it comes to Israel. Well, you and I believe that we're Americans and Americans first. Period. End of story. We are citizens of this nation. Okay. And Israel, we have funded, we have supported. Not like we're gonna, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite, but my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this. And I mean, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter. Thousands of tweets and text messages. It's offensive to those of us who have been out there defending them in many instances against critics on our own side. And now you have a couple of comments like, well, what about? Yep. So here is Charlie Kirk on the Patrick Bet David podcast. Now, I don't know when this sound is. It doesn't really matter. If you look at what he said, it's not. I'll put all those things out there. Yeah. How did these guys not know this was taking place? So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country was there. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into 19-year-olds with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun. That's an IDF base. Right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. People are saying there's stats at 2023. That makes sense. He was denying January 6th, was he? Oh no. Kirk was attacked by Israel supporters last month and labeled him a Semite for defending free speech. Not everything as that it seems, and people have layers and hidden thoughts. Kirk was against that anti-boycott bill, which ultimately failed. He spoke out against that before it failed. He's there. He's totally back on that. When he was where Trump was going, and he tried to influence Trump administration to nix that, which of course they did. Congress. Of course, you mentioned this. Harrison Smith, Charlie King Oh, yeah, that sounds very like. So, if you're going to hate him, just hate him because you hate people, you know? Why not just do that? Just be honest. Like you said, he wasn't perfect. He probably pissed a lot of people off, sure. And there's probably a lot of bad instances of things he said. But regarding this, which is a pretty big topic, you know. Um, just in a world of disinformation, you know, you can't let people control your mind with simple comments and stuff rolling online because exactly what it will turn into is this witch hunt, you know, and everybody's going to be made to turn against one another, and all it takes is a few, and it's not worth any of it. It's not worth any of it. It is better to tone down the rhetoric. Calm down, because none of you really know what to believe. If you're honest with yourselves. Watching this crap go on. It's all bullshit. Well, I think that's all I have for the moment. Try and think of something else. Paradise Lost, isn't it? Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me if you did. Like and subscribe, I guess. Have a good day.